Hi, Aquarius. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for August of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julie Mijas in San Francisco, California.
Hey, Aquarius. This month's themes revolve a lot around your close relationships and your sense of intimacy. If you need clarification, anything Julia and I say here can be more fully explained in a lifelong love reading or a blissful union couples reading if you wanted to do the reading with your partner. You'll find links for these in the text that comes with this video. I want to start with two things that are already in process, and so I'm not going to dwell on them, but I do want to point to them. Juno is traveling along through Pisces, and last month, July of 22, we reported that Juno in Pisces has gone into a relationship retrospection period, which is going to last until October. This is having all human beings re-examine our long-term committed relationships, whether business or personal, for this really important litmus test. How well does this relationship fit or mesh with my spiritual value system? And a lot of people will be making the changes in their relationships based on that criterion. So definitely you should check out our July 2022 news playlist on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, to find out more about that. And just be aware that it's going on until October. And at that point, we'll say more about it. So the other thing I want to point to right now is that Uranus is traveling along through Taurus. And on August 24, Uranus is going to turn retrograde. And there it is, retrograde right there in your fourth house. Uranus is traveling through this house for usually about 7 years it takes to pass through a house, and that depends on factors that are individual in your specific chart, but fairly safe to say it's probably in your fourth house right now and may have been there for a couple of years and may have a couple of years yet to go. And Uranus does bring disruption, even disorder and chaos. It can really throw a monkey wrench into the proceedings. But what Uranus is really trying to accomplish is innovation, bringing change or even up-leveling. So Uranus is doing this in your home life, your family life, and it might even introduce new information about your heritage, for example. And any of these things can be disruptive, but they can also bring you to an entirely new perspective about family and what it means to you. When Uranus turns retrograde, which he's going to do on the 24th of this month, within a week surrounding that date, it wouldn't be surprising if you experienced a kind of a pivotal day, a day when some new idea gets introduced and you make some kind of a shift. A crossroads, if you will. So look for that. Ooh, I have to blow my nose. Hey, Julia, what's up with Mercury, Venus, and Mars?
Well, hey there, Aquarius. So Mercury is the planet that represents mentation and communication. And wherever Mercury is this month is where we're going to be sort of expending the most mental energy, where we're going to be preoccupied with maybe planning, strategizing, and thinking. So for the first few days of the month, Mercury starts in your seventh house. This house rules all one-to-one relationships, like with your romantic partner, your best friend, or even a consultant you would hire. Now, we really covered this transit in a lot of depth in our last month's video. So if you do want to hear more about it, I totally recommend you check that out. But this can be a time where you really are finding yourself in a lot of one-to-one conversations that you really need another person there to bounce your ideas off of. Then between August 3rd and 4th, depending on where you live in the world, which time zone you're in, Mercury enters the 8th house. And the 8th house is a financial house. It's also a house that represents research, investigations, and it also rules social taboos as well. So with Mercury in the 8th, you could be spending a lot of time thinking about your money, maybe your stocks, your bonds, mortgages, all of those things which are ruled by the 8th. It can be a time of increased communication with others over money too, and a good time for strategizing about your money as well. Mercury in the 8th can be also a wonderful transit if you have to do any type of research in your life. The 8th house is all about digging down and sort of finding something underneath the surface. Mercury in the 8th can have a tendency to get a little bit too paranoid as well. So just kind of watch out for that tendency, but for the most part, it can be wonderful for any research and investigation. Now, Venus, the love planet, starts the month in your 6th house, and this is a work house. It's a house of routine. It's a house of health. And so having Venus in the 6th can be a good time in people's health. You might get a little boost there. It's also a wonderful time for starting any new habit because wherever we have Venus, we find pleasure. So you may find that you really, really can get some sort of good use and joy out of this new habit you're starting. And you also might find yourself socializing with a lot more people at work. Maybe you're taking a client out to lunch. Maybe you're meeting with your coworkers for drinks afterwards, but the social area of your life might be more in the work sphere. Then on August 11th, Venus enters your 7th house, and Venus loves being in this place. She naturally rules this house through Libra. And the 7th house is all about your romantic relationship. So when Venus comes in here, it can be a lovely time with you and your partner. If you guys have been going through issues in this past sort of few months, then Venus in this house can really help smooth things over. This can also be a nice time if you're single to go out and date and meet somebody new. And it could be a good time where you might get a little luck in hiring a consultant too, because the 7th house rules doctors, lawyers, or anyone else that you hire for advice. And then finally, Mars starts the month in your 4th house. This is the planet of action and activity. Wherever we have Mars, we can be very driven, but where we can also run into conflict as well. So Mars in the 4th house means that a lot of your physical activity is taking place in the home. Maybe you're having a lot of emotional confrontations with people that you live with. Maybe you're starting a new workout routine at home or doing a lot of your own professional work at home, but a lot of activity in the home front. It can also be a time of not seeing eye to eye with your parents or other extended family. But a good use of this transit is getting a lot of projects done in the home. So if you have to go through, clean a lot of things, fix a lot of things, this Mars can give you sort of the energy you need to see that stuff gets done. Then on August 20th, Mars goes into your 5th house. This is the house of fun and games. It's also the house of your children too. And it's also the house of creativity. So with Mars in the 5th house, you just want to expend your energy and put all your drive into having a good time. Maybe there are some festivals or clubs or plays that you want to go see. And it can be a good time for creative work, especially creative work that's very physical, like painting a mural or something, but a creative work that really uses your body. Dance would be a wonderful outlet for this transit. Now, the 5th house also rules children. So it's also possible if you have children that they could be annoying you a little bit more than usual with Mars in the 5th. And for the most part, Mars in the 5th can be a nice transit, but it can be hard if you have a lot of responsibilities and duties that are kind of weighing you down, your freedom of action, because Mars in the 5th just wants to have a good time and doesn't want to be bogged down too much by heavy responsibilities.
Well, speaking of heavy responsibilities, here's the first of the month's 2 moons. This is a full moon involving Sun in Leo here in the 7th, opposite the moon in Aquarius here in the 1st, which is hanging out with Saturn. And Saturn's been traveling along through your 1st house for about it'll be there for about 2.5 years. It might be most of the way done at this point. But as long as Saturn is in your 1st house, you have a tendency to feel that you really should be presenting yourself with some dignity. You want to be putting your best professional foot forward, and you want people to take you seriously. So a moon like this can bring up high emotions around that, because moons generally tend to bring up emotions, especially if you feel that there is some partner or friend, somebody who mirrors you, that is interfering with that process. And especially if you feel that this Uranus in the fourth house is really disrupting that process. This particular moon, we're calling it crossroads of change, to consolidate or innovate. That's because consolidation is a very Saturn theme. Innovation is a very Uranus theme, and they're both all up in this moon, and bringing this conflict of, like, do I do things the way that I've always done them, or do I make a change? And this Saturn in the first house might make you identify actually with this carefully crafted professional personality that you are projecting right now and really wanting to be seen. And so when those disruptions happen at home, it can really throw you off your game and maybe make you a little grumpy. So watch out for that during, within the weeks surrounding this first moon. Then the next thing that happens is we're going to see the sun finishing its season of Leo and moving on into its season of Virgo right about here, August 23rd. Wherever the sun travels to, it's really good to shine the spotlight of your attention. Attention is like sunlight. Wherever you shed it, things can thrive and grow. So the sun, interestingly, is moving from one relationship house into another. The first relationship house it was in was number 7 for the first 2/3 of the month. And for that, I gave you the advice in last month's horoscope to cultivate and pay attention to your relationships, your partnerships, your one-on-one connections of all kinds, and to really attend to them and really notice the people that you relate with. Now that the sun is moving on into the 8th house, it's time to pay attention to the people that you've invested more deeply in, and the things you've invested more deeply in, whether that's financially or emotionally or sexually. So your deeper partnerships are going to call forth your attention when the sun moves into the 8th house. Now then, a couple of days after the sun does move into the 8th house, it's joined by the moon, and that is a conjunction, a new moon that happens here in your 8th house. This particular moon we're calling perfectionism with scattered actions. And the reason for that is that the moon is in Virgo with the sun here, bringing this quality of perfectionism, really wanting to get everything right, get the details right. And yet it has this square to Mars, throwing a monkey wrench into the proceedings, and bringing an impulsivity coupled with a distractibility. So, and especially if this particular moon is, new moons are good for planting seeds. And if this particular new moon makes you want to plant seeds in terms of your investments, if you're looking around at what you could invest in, and for this, in this moment, I mean that literally, like financially, then I think it would really be smart to not be too impulsive or distractible, especially if you're researching various investments, because Mars can help you and give you the drive necessary to pull the trigger and actually do something about growing your portfolio. But this particular Mars might be a little bit impulsive. And so I would watch out for that if I were you. And that's around August 27th. Well, that's what we have for you today, Aquarius. Hope you enjoyed it. You will always find your horoscope on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscope tab. And if you want to know more about this month's moons, you can check out the forecast tab. And if you want a reading with Julia or me, you can check out the readings tab, and you can actually get yourself into our schedule there. Until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.